Blake Treinen's story is one of quiet strength, perseverance, and a deep-rooted belief in the long game of life and baseball. In a sport built on precision, timing, and mental endurance, Treinen's path was never about instant gratification or early acclaim. Instead, it was about enduring the slow burn, the late bloom, the years of incremental progress that would one day transform him from an overlooked arm into one of the most feared and respected relievers in Major League Baseball. His journey defies the narrative that greatness must be visible from the beginning. It proves the opposite, that sometimes greatness grows underground for years before breaking through the surface, and when it finally rises, it does so with an undeniable force. Treinen's name, once unknown and unremarkable to scouts and front offices, became synonymous with dominance, resilience, and masterful reinvention. He became the pitcher whose ball bent reality, whose sinker seemed crafted by physics that don't apply to anyone else, and whose quiet demeanor masked a fierce competitor carrying an unshakable confidence forged through struggle and discipline. Growing up, Treinen didn't fit the blueprint of the phenom. He didn't shatter radar guns as a teenager or draw media attention from powerhouse baseball programs. He wasn't the type of player who dominated every league he played in. Instead, he was an athlete with raw potential and a passion bordering on obsession, someone who loved the game so fiercely that he refused to walk away even when shut doors, setbacks, and long odds suggested he might be headed down a different path. His early journey through college baseball was marked by uncertainty, injuries, and doubts, both external and internal. Many players in similar situations never make it past that stage. Many see the obstacles and assume the dream isn't meant for them. But Treinen wasn't wired that way. He internalized every challenge as a lesson, every disappointment as fuel, every struggle as an opportunity to rebuild himself stronger than before. When he transferred to South Dakota State, it wasn't because he was being promoted or recruited upward. It was because he refused to stop searching for a place where he could grow, improve, and finally unlock the pitcher he knew he could become. It was in those years that Treinen began shaping the mentality that would carry him through his professional career, a combination of humility and relentlessness. He was willing to be coached, willing to start over, willing to break down mechanics and rebuild them from scratch if it meant one day finding consistency. And slowly, almost imperceptibly at first, the velocity crept up. The mechanics sharpened. The confidence grew. What had once been hope became possibility, and what had once been possibility began transforming into undeniable talent. When he was finally drafted, it wasn't the culmination of a dream. It was the beginning of the most demanding chapter. Being drafted gave him a chance, but he still had to earn every inch forward. He entered professional baseball not as a heralded prospect, but as a worker, a grinder, someone who had fought too long and too hard to waste a single opportunity. And that mindset became one of his greatest weapons. When Treinen reached the big leagues with Washington, he arrived as a pitcher with both the physical gifts and mental maturity to impact a team immediately. But even then, his journey was not linear. There were moments of brilliance, stretches of dominance, and flashes of potential that made coaches believe he could become something special. But there were also periods where command eluded him, where walks piled up, where frustration simmered beneath the surface. Baseball has a way of exposing weaknesses with brutal honesty, and Treinen had to face his head-on. Instead of crumbling, he embraced the process of refinement. He had tasted adversity before, far earlier and far more intensely than most major leaguers, and that experience had shaped him for moments like these. He knew how to adapt. He knew how to respond. He knew how to outlast the storms until he emerged stronger. His move to the Oakland Athletics became the pivotal turning point, the moment the game and the world finally saw the fully realized version of Blake Treinen. Oakland didn't just give him innings. They gave him belief, responsibility, and trust. And Treinen rewarded that trust with one of the most dominant seasons by a reliever in MLB history. His 2018 campaign wasn't just impressive, it was otherworldly. Hitters stepped into the box already defeated by the thought of facing a pitch they couldn't predict, couldn't track, and often couldn't touch. His sinker, fired at outrageous velocity, didn't just move. It dropped like it had fallen off a table, violently and without warning. His cutter and slider became equalizers that punished hitters who tried to cheat on the sinker. Everything he threw seemed to break a different way, and every pitch came with the same poise and control. It was a season built on talent, yes, but also on all the years of discipline, faith, and internal resilience he had developed long before the spotlight found him. And yet, Treinen's greatness is best understood not through his peaks, but through how he handled the valleys. After his historic season, the following year brought injuries, inconsistency, fatigue, and frustration. But Treinen never used excuses. He never played the victim. He did what he had always done. He stayed steady, stayed humble, and kept working. Baseball is mercilessly cyclical, and even the best pitchers are tested again and again. For Treinen, those tests became reawakening moments rather than career setbacks. When the Dodgers signed him, they weren't just investing in talent. They were investing in a mentality, a blueprint of discipline, a competitor who had never been afraid to walk through fire and come out refined. Los Angeles became the perfect destination at the perfect time, and Treinen seized the opportunity with the quiet intensity that would come to define his reputation. With the Dodgers, Treinen re-established himself as a premier bullpen force. But more importantly, he evolved into a leader, someone who offered guidance to younger pitchers, someone who carried himself with professionalism and integrity, someone who elevated the culture of the bullpen simply by being who he was. He was no longer just the guy throwing the nastiest sinker anyone had ever seen. He was a veteran who understood the rhythms of the game, the emotional swings of a season, the importance of preparation, and the responsibility of setting a standard. His 2021 season reaffirmed his brilliance, showcasing a pitcher who had not only rediscovered his best form, but had augmented it through experience and wisdom. The injuries that came later did not diminish his legacy. If anything, they highlighted the unwavering resolve that had characterized him since the beginning. Through rehab, setbacks, and uncertainty, Treinen maintained the same steady perspective that had carried him from obscurity to dominance. He continued studying hitters. He continued mentoring younger arms. He continued working with the same level of commitment, refusing to let adversity define him. He understood that a baseball career is not measured only by peak performance, but by the durability of one's spirit, and Treinen's spirit has remained unbreakable. Blake Treinen's legacy extends far beyond statistics, accolades, or singular seasons. It lives in the hitters who walked back to the dugout shaking their heads after swinging over a sinker that disappeared beneath their barrels. It lives in the teammates who trusted him implicitly with leads in the ninth inning. It lives in the coaches who admired his humility, preparation, and accountability. It lives in the young pitchers who study his movement patterns, his mechanics, his approach, hoping to capture even a fraction of what makes him exceptional. And it lives in the fans who watched him evolve, year after year, into one of the most fascinating, respected, and resilient relievers of his generation. What makes Treinen unique is not just his talent, it's his character. It's the authenticity with which he carries himself. It's the quiet strength behind his competitive fire. It's the consistency of his work ethic. It's the steadiness of his mindset. It's the way he made greatness feel earned, not given. His story resonates because it reflects the journey so many people go through in life, struggling quietly, fighting self-doubt, rebuilding after disappointments, staying committed when the outcome is uncertain. Blake Treinen proved that perseverance isn't just admirable, it can be transformative. He remains a symbol of what it means to earn everything, to rise slowly but powerfully, to master your craft through discipline and humility, to treat your career like a calling rather than an entitlement. And as baseball continues to evolve, his influence will remain. Through his pitches, through his leadership, through the example he set for how to navigate adversity with grace and strength. Thank you all so much for watching this tribute and celebrating the incredible journey of Blake Treinen. If you enjoyed this long-form story, make sure to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss another tribute. Your support keeps these stories alive and helps us honor more incredible athletes across the world of sports.